Okay, everybody, welcome to week number 1 of Creative Presentation. My name is Kristen Heaney. I just introduced myself kind of informally right before we got started here. But as I just mentioned, I'm combining my lectures this month with another instructor here at Full Sail, and that is Natalie Irisari. So some of you guys might have Natalie or Professor Irisari as your instructor. Some of you might see me, Kristen Heaney, as your instructor, and that's fine. So you would kind of go to your designated instructor for assignment questions, assignment submissions. But here on Tuesdays when we meet, we're both kind of in the sessions and we both can kind of answer your questions as well. But for the majority of the month, it's going to be me that's going to be talking to you guys. Natalie does a little bit of work adjuncting and teaching for some other schools. So this is going to be a new month for her. So kind of in a training mode, but I'm glad that she's here with me, and we're going to get started. So welcome, guys. Welcome to Full Sail. Welcome to Creative Presentation. I know you're getting excited and ready to go. I'm sure a lot of you guys have been trying to get this going for a very long time. So welcome, very warm welcome. It's a wonderful environment. It's very fast paced, but definitely keep up with it and we will get you exactly to where you need to be. So I like to kick off my sessions each month with this. And this is from probably, my gosh, like 18 months ago. This was from the Full Sail Instagram page. Of course, I mean, I'm sure a lot of you guys probably follow Full Sail on social media, but I wanted to kind of start my sessions off by telling you guys about their motto. And it's, if you're serious about your dream, we'll take your dreams seriously. And I found that to be very, very true. I think that you will find that your instructors and your advisors and your online student liaisons, and you have this whole support system around you, ready to kind of be there, helping to push you across the finish line, but you have to be the one kind of heading that charge. So if you're serious about your dream, we'll definitely take your dreams seriously. So I just wanted to kind of reiterate that to you guys. So for a moment, just take a look at the go-to training control panel. That's a mouthful. There's about 47 people in the room right now. And the things that I want you to be aware of is going to be that list of attendees, because you're able to raise your hand, which would indicate that you guys have a question or you want to speak over the microphones, which I'll give you an opportunity to do in a couple of moments. But that chat box that you're seeing, there's the ability to chat to your entire audience, or you can just chat one-on-one or send a private message. But I can see that chat box running throughout my side of this. So kind of giving you a little perspective right now. So I'm trying to kind of make sure I'm staying on task and talk to you guys about the content. And sometimes that chat box can get a little distracting. James, thank you for telling me you can see me and hear me. So thank you. I appreciate that. But it can get a little distracting. So I'm going to try and keep it to where, I'll pause periodically throughout our session today to see if you guys have any questions, to see if you have any comments. And if we could just kind of keep the chat at a minimum. It does, just to be very, very frank and honest with you, it does get a little distracting when conversations start kind of going off on different tangents, and I'm trying to bring it back here. But I definitely welcome you guys, especially in this situation where you get the opportunity to really mix with other Full Sail students, because you're online students and it's tough to do. And we're trying to mimic the classroom as best we can. But obviously with everybody in different time zones, sometimes in different countries, it's very hard to do that. But if you could just kind of respectfully just keep the questions to those specific times, I would greatly appreciate it. All right, guys, so for the agenda, here's what I traditionally go through on week number 1. Week number 1 is probably going to be the longest of our 4 sessions. All of your classes are 4 weeks. So this is kind of the agenda that we will follow today. So I'll kind of start everything out talking about why in the world creative presentation is your very first class. I'll do some introductions of myself and Professor Irizarry. Also, the FSO platform, kind of just giving you things to really make sure you're looking at each and every day when you log into FSO. I'll go over some policies and procedures. I'll go over some of your assignments, which obviously we need to get started on because they are due this upcoming Sunday for the majority of them. And we'll talk a little bit about content for the day, and then we'll wrap it up. Hopefully around 3, we might go to about 3:15, and I usually try to a couple of minutes after the session to just hang out and make sure that all questions have been answered, or if anybody has anything to go over, we can obviously do that. So starting at the top of our agenda, why creative presentation? So for Full Sail students, you guys are all taking your first month class. There might be a couple of exceptions here and there, but for the majority of you guys, this is your very first course at Full Sail. You might have just completed your orientation, and you're in this presentation class, which a lot of people don't like to do. They don't like public speaking. However, it's a wonderful way to really get your communication skills refined a little bit before moving into your degree programs, because I promise you, this will not be the only class where you have to deliver presentations. And I highly, highly believe that effective communication is going to be the most important part of any successful career. It's never going to go away. You're not going to sit in a room all by yourself and never have to communicate with anyone else. So we're going to kind of refine some of those skills, and you will be working on a final project, which I'll discuss in a couple of minutes. But that's why we kind of start there, just to kind of get you up and running, communicating with your instructors, learning how to communicate as a professional, and also communicating with your peers and classmates as well. All right, guys, so introductions. I'll quickly introduce myself and then move it over to Natalie. So here's me. My name is Kristen Heaney. So for this month, I have 4 sections of students, about 25 people in each section. That's actually quite a lot, and something that is not common, but we are doing that this month because enrollment is very, very high right now at Full Sail. So for the majority of you, you might have me as your instructor. I've been with Full Sail for about 19 months now, and prior to that, I was working at Valencia College and Seminole State College doing what they call adjunct work or contract work and teaching public speaking and interpersonal communications. And then through a mutual contact, which a lot of people land their jobs that way, is somebody they know, an opportunity with full-time faculty came up at Full Sail, and so I jumped on it. So it's been a great experience for the past 19 months. I've been teaching creative presentation and then also professional communication and presentation. So that's my email address, kheaney@fullsail.com. And that is my office extension. I'm in the office. I'll show you my hours in a moment. But I also give my students access to what is called a Google Voice number, and I gave that to you guys in an announcement. So you will have access to me because sometimes I do work from home. Like right now, I am working from home. So I wouldn't necessarily be accessible to my students at my office number. Just a little bit about me. I'm a mom of 2 preteen alien boys that just are driving me crazy right now. They're both in middle school, so they keep me busy. I'm a Central Florida resident. I've lived here all my life. I went to UCF, or the University of Central Florida, for my bachelor's degree, and I have a bachelor's degree in political science because I thought I was going to go to law school, but I changed my mind and instead decided to study further in communications and went to Rollins College, which is also another college here in Orlando, actually in Winter Park, and I have a Master of Arts in Corporate Communication and Technology. So here's a little bit about my office hours. They look kind of strange, I know, but they actually might be very beneficial, especially to those that are on the West Coast. I'm in Orlando, obviously East Coast time. It's 1:08 right now, my time. But for some of you, maybe on the West Coast, it's only 10 o'clock in the morning. So on Mondays and Wednesdays, I'm in the office from 9:30 to 1:30, and then I leave, I break. I usually go and do my running around, picking up my kids, things like that. And then I log back on from home from 5 to 9 p.m. On Tuesdays, I am available to you guys from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Our go-to sessions will always be on Tuesdays from 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern time. And then Thursday and Friday, I am in the office on campus from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. And so you have access to me during those times. For my students, you have access to my Google Voice number. I would say those kind of operating hours, if you will, please keep them between like 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Monday through Friday. I've had a student, call me at 12:30 in the morning, which is a little disturbing. Usually if their phone's ringing at 12:30 in the morning, something's wrong. But please just be respectful of those hours. It does come straight into my cell phone. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Professor Irizarry for a moment, and she's going to talk to you guys a little bit about her.
Hello, everyone. It is very nice to meet all of you. First of all, the students from my sections, I would like to apologize. The university is having a little bit of technical trouble this morning, but that is getting sorted out very quickly. Anyone who's listening to this later, it is okay if you miss the live session because you can watch this back, but hopefully you'll join us for the next one. So some of the items in our class site have not yet populated, but more will populate today and will be filled out. So you're getting to know a little bit about me before you're going to see it in the class site, but that will be there shortly. So I have a bachelor's in English and interpersonal and organizational communication from UCF, and my master's is specifically in interpersonal communication, also from UCF. So as we've said, I am new here at Full Sail, but I am not new to teaching. I've taught a variety of communication classes, everything from public speaking to fundamentals of technical presentations to family communication to communication and research methods. So I have a fairly good understanding of the different classes in the field, and I really like the setup for the creative presentation class at Full Sail. It's very cutting edge. It's very now what everyone is doing. I'm also a communication researcher, so I have research studies within the field of communication, everything from restaurant tipping and compliance gaining to Facebook and social dominance. I even have a study looking at mail order brides and the ways that they communicate about themselves when looking for a husband. So I have looked at a lot of different things within the communication field, but I really love teaching. So I'm really excited to be working with all of you this semester.
Thank you. Okay, guys, so if you are in Professor Irisari's class, you will be normally connecting and communicating with her. And one of the best ways to connect with us is through the FSO platform, okay? So that's where a lot of the communication will start to happen. You can obviously send us direct messages, and you can also communicate with us through feedback through your assignment. So it's important to kind of start communicating with us through that method. Usually that's the first method of contact. That's the first way I will probably reach out to you, is through the platform. So I would like to encourage you guys to check the platform daily, because this is going to be the main method of communication. Email addresses are fine as well, but most of it, if we can, keep it all kind of tied in the platform, because it gives us great reference points about, prior conversations. Perhaps it's about a grade that you received on an assignment, so we can quickly just kind of look at that. So please just communicate with us first through the platform. I'm going to show you also another important area to look at when you are actually logged in. And I use these announcements, this big orange arrow is pointing at it right now, the announcement section. So if you're in my section, and I believe with Professor Irisari, you should have received an announcement this morning. This is how I kind of communicate with my classes as a whole. So for me, I sent out 3 separate announcements, and this is how I will also send you the link to the go-to session so you can hear the recording, and you guys have access to that all month long. That's one of those great benefits of online classes. When you're in a live lecture on campus, you just get the lecture once and that's it. It's not recorded. With the online lectures, you can kind of take it at your leisure. If you wanted to only watch an hour and then pause and then kind of, watch the remaining portion, you can obviously do it. And if you wanted to hear another explanation of the assignment, you have access to that. But that is a way that I will be sending you some follow-up information, some additional material that I'd like you to look over, reminders about assignment due dates, and also the link to the recording. And so that's going to be an important part of the FSO platform that I want you to be aware of. All right, so one more thing I would love for you guys to do is to manage your account. So this takes just a couple of minutes, but I would definitely ask you guys to add your photo to the platform. It actually helps me, and I'm sure it helps Natalie quite a bit, to put names and faces together. We only get you guys for a month, but it's definitely helpful when I can see an image and I can see a name, and that really just kind of helps me get to know you guys a little bit better. And I would also encourage you guys to set set your notifications. This is going to be important because you'll receive notifications via email when, say, for instance, I've graded an assignment or I've sent you a message in the platform. Obviously, my notifications are going to look a little bit different because it's the faculty side, but I would go ahead and just click on all of those notifications so you don't miss any crucial information or any kind of messages or feedback that you're receiving in the FSO platform. I would also suggest that you set your time zones. Again, I'm Eastern time, but a lot of you guys are not Eastern time. So go ahead and make sure you're setting your correct time zone. So here's my spiel about the importance of time zones. All right, so with Full Sail, the majority of the time, your due dates are going to be on Sunday nights at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You're going to get so sick and tired of me saying 11:59 Eastern Standard Time. But the reason I want to harp on that and really kind of drill that into you is because the platform, once it clicks over to midnight, which is technically the next day, it's going to shut down on you and you won't be able to submit assignments anymore. So my suggestion number one is set your time zones because everything is due as per Eastern Standard Time. So what does that mean? If you're in California, you don't have 3 extra hours to complete the assignment, right? Because in California at 11:59, it's actually 8:59. So you don't have 3 extra hours to turn it in. So setting your time zone in the platform will actually help you kind of stay on task with all of that. So make sure you're doing that. Everything is done as, all of our servers, everything is done as per Eastern time because that's where Full Sail is located. So if it does happen where you guys miss the deadline, reach out to us because we can go back and, if we decide to go back, especially in week 1, go back and manually reopen the assignment and allow you to submit the work. I will say this though, most Full Sail students, and there's about 18,000, I believe, are trying to submit their work around that same time. So as you can imagine, as you're getting closer and closer to the due date, the upload speeds start to dwindle quite a bit. So you don't want to wait until the last minute to submit your work. But that will happen at 11:59 as the platform will just kind of shut down and not let you submit anything, which is kind of anxiety inducing sometimes when you're just like, oh my gosh, it was like 59% uploaded and the time clicked over. But definitely reach out to us. That's what we're here for, to help you guys be successful, especially in this first week when everybody's just kind of still getting their bearings. So before we get into a couple of introductions of you guys, I wanted to pause here because I've thrown a lot of information out to you guys in a very short amount of time and see if there's any questions at this point about anything that I've covered thus far. I told you I'd periodically stop and ask for questions. So if you wanted to type anything into the chat box, I can see it and try to address your question. If there's anyone that would like to talk over the microphone, go ahead and hit the hand up button and I can see that. So I'll just pause here for a moment. Any questions? Let me see. Damien, you were late to the session today. So Damien, don't worry about that. And that's for not just Damien, that's for everybody. If you have to pop in late or you have to leave early, no problem. You always have access to the recording. So you can always kind of make that up at your convenience later on. But thank you for addressing that. That's something I definitely wanted to let everyone know. Laban, okay, would you like for us to link our email now? Where are you linking your email, Laban? I'm not sure where you're asking us, or you're asking for a link. Joshua, you don't have to put a photo up, but I will ask you to do that if you're comfortable with it. If you're not comfortable with it, that's fine. But it does give, your classmates are able to kind of see you. It kind of personalizes the experience a little bit. But if you aren't comfortable with it or don't want to, it is not a requirement. So any other questions that I can address at this point? You're welcome, Joshua. Chino, yes, my office hours. Let me go back. Oops. Here are my office hours. I'm assuming, Chino, you're one of my students. James is asking, are you going to cover the discussion boards today? I was confused. Absolutely. I'm going to spend quite a bit of time on your first week assignments, just getting through a little bit of this, policies and procedures and introductions and all of that. James is saying, thank God. Yeah, they can be a little confusing. I'm also going to show you some example work as well to get you guys started. I want you to feel like you've got everything that you need and you're ready to go. Zachary, office hours are also in our email, correct? Yes, I sent those office hours to you guys in my announcement. So if you're one of my students, I sent my office hours out. Honestly, though, and Natalie and I, we will, if you send us a message in the platform or an email, usually you can expect to receive a response from us within about 24 hours. I will say this about myself. Natalie might be a little different. Over the weekend, I try to put all of my attention and my energy into my students during the week. And we'll kind of get into this in a little bit about time management. But over the weekends, I've got two crazy teenage boys that are running me crazy at soccer tournaments and practices and drum lessons and all of that. So my attention really tries to go and focus to my family and taking care of what they need. I'll check in periodically, but really, guys, if you have questions or anything that comes up, it does need to be something that can be addressed during the week, Monday through Friday, usually 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Natalie, did you have anything to add on that one?
Yes, I do want to add that I am an online only professor for Full Sail. So instead of having set office hours during the week, I do have some set office hours, I would say from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Fridays, which I think seems to be a good time for students who are working on assignments. But mostly I'm available to all of you through the platform or through email. I'm really good about answering emails, and I actually I do work over the weekends as per my online schedule, which is just a little bit different. So if you email me, it does go to my phone, but it wouldn't be a notification or make a noise. I'm just constantly checking it when I'm awake. So you can email me at any time and expect to receive a fairly quick response within 24 hours.
Cool. Thank you, Natalie. Okay, so there's a couple more questions that I'm trying to address here. Damien, I wasn't able to get any of my things for this class on my FSO Monday, so this is my first time getting all my info. And I am repeating these questions because I will say this as well. If you are viewing the recorded version, you cannot see the chat box. I'm trying to repeat the question so that everyone hears the question and I'm answering it, not only for the benefit of those in the live session, but also for the recorded session. So, Damien, there have been, for whatever reason, I don't know, some glitches and some hiccups trying to get the FSO platform up and running for all of our sections. Right now, I believe there's 55 creative presentation sections. We have a huge number of students right now. So I think there's been some hiccups. So don't worry. Natalie and I are very well aware that some students are kind of just today logging in. So don't worry. We will be absolutely understanding of that. No fault of your own or ours. It's got to be the IT people, right? That's all their fault. We'll blame it on them. So we'll definitely understand that. Okay. So let me see. Brandon, you're saying, is the final final assignment going into our professional portfolio? So this isn't necessarily what you would consider in your degree program a portfolio course, but this is something that I would love for you to feel confident about to eventually add to your own personal and professional portfolio. But no, it's not going to be something that goes into one of your portfolio classes, but it is going to be a final assignment, which I will discuss in a little bit of detail so you know what you're working towards throughout the class. John, let's see, even though we are online, would we be able to use the campus as well? John, yes, absolutely. So most of my students are not in Orlando, but John, if you happen to be, or any of my students or Natalie's students are in Orlando, yes, you are a Full Sail student. You have access to the library and to all of the different the different facilities that we do have on campus. If you ever wanted to come and visit, the faculty offices are in building 4D, and we'll be happy to kind of show you around a little bit. It's very rare that we actually get to meet our online students in person, but absolutely you would have access to being on the campus as well. Or if you're even visiting, just let us know. Oh, you live in New York, and not New York, North Carolina. I added a Y in there. Just wanted to know, yes, you do have access. Rihanna, how does the ID system work for online, if you know? I'm not sure what you mean by the ID system. Can you expand on that, Rihanna? Oh, with your, do you, now I'm assuming, okay, so if you go on campus, you guys probably don't have ID badges, which all of our IDs open up the different places, like the different offices, the different classrooms. It's just how we get around campus. So you'd probably need to check in at the front desk and let someone know, hey, I'm traditionally an online student, but I'm here visiting. Could I have a tour? Could someone kind of show me around? Something along those lines. Hopefully that answered your question. All right, guys, I'm actually going to go ahead and move forward because I want to give you guys an opportunity to talk a little bit and get to know each other. So I want to know a little bit about who you guys are. And for the sake of time, I'm only going to limit this to about 4 or 5 students, but I would love to hear from you. So if you have a working microphone and you would like to talk over the microphones and just introduce yourselves, I would love to hear from you. So tell us, what's your name? Where are you from? What degree program are you entering into, and why did you choose that option? So if there are any volunteers, I'll be looking down the list. We've got about 54 people in the room right now, and I will see, and let me see here. There's a couple hands up. All right, Jordan, I see you first. I'm going to unmute you. And keep in mind, guys, everyone is muted just to kind of keep the background noise to a minimum. So I'm going to unmute you, Jordan. Jordan, turn your microphone on. I can't see that it's green yet.
Hi, I'm Jordan.
Hey, Jordan, how are you?
I'm good. I'm from Washington State, and I'm going into the bachelor's degree for creative writing, so I can hopefully be a director someday.
That's awesome. So you're from Washington State.
Yes.
Wow, you're like on the whole other opposite end of the country. What is the weather like there?
Rainy and smoky.
Rainy and smoky. It is nasty and hot and humid here, and it's never going to end. I think we're getting a hurricane soon too, so that's going to throw a wrench in that. So Jordan, thank you for introducing yourself and welcome to the class. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, let me see down the list here for more hands. I'm not sure how to say this name. Virgia, I think. I'm coming to you, but you can correct me on my pronunciation. Okay, go ahead.
There it is. Okay. Hi, good afternoon to everyone, and good morning to those on the West Coast.
Thank you.
My first name is Virgie, but I go by Renee, which is my middle name, so Renee is fine.
Okay.
I am a North Carolina transplant via the U.S. Army.
Okay.
No need to say thank you for your service. You don't have to do that. We get that all the time, so I just want to go ahead and cut that out. I'm doing, sorry, the cinematography program.
Oh, cool.
And I'm doing that because my career in the Army was a broadcast journalist, and I wanted to add more to my toolbox and hopefully help small businesses with their commercials or however they want to help build their brand.
That's awesome. So are you currently still in the Army? Or are you out and now moving on with your education?
I'm out. I'm retired now and moving on with my education.
Awesome. But okay, so you go by Renee.
Yes.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you.
All right, Zachary, you're right next to Renee's name on the list, so I'm coming to you. Hey, Zachary.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. So tell us about yourself.
I'm Zachary Lasko. I'm from Adamsburg, Pennsylvania. I'm in Dan Patrick's sports broadcasting bachelor program.
Okay.
My whole life I've been a contractor, but my passion's always been sports, so I figured it was time to chase that dream down.
Awesome, awesome. So what's your dream job?
My dream job would be to be on ESPN broadcasting football games, but we'll see how far we can get.
And who's your college football team?
Well, I'm from Pittsburgh, so I guess it's Pitt, but really I'm a Steelers fan.
Okay, for the NFL. That's awesome. Okay, yeah. Zachary, cool. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
All right, I'm scrolling up the list to see if there's any more volunteers. Allison, coming to you. Allison, are you there? Allison? Maybe your microphone's not working. I see it's turned green, but I don't hear you talking, Allison. I'll come back to you and see if we can get that working. Let me see. One more is Damien. Damien, I can't see that your microphone is on either. There you go.
Hello?
Hey, Damien, how are you?
Hey, how are you?
I'm all right. So tell us about yourself.
My name is Damian Johnson. I'm from Lawrence, South Carolina. Yeah, I'm in the audio production bachelor's or associate's program, excuse me.
Okay.
Yeah, and basically just trying to, like the guy said just a minute ago, just trying to pursue a dream of, opening up a studio one day and being able to record and do all that good stuff. So, yeah.
Wonderful. Well, that is great. You're in the right place for it. Welcome to the class, Damien. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, guys. So I'm going to go ahead and stop there just because we're already at 1:30 and we have a lot to cover. So I'm going to put all the hands down right now. Whoops, that bought me out of the thing. Okay, so just a little bit of extra information before we start going into the assignments and the content. So let's talk about expectations. All right, so first I'm going to talk about what we as instructors really expect from our students. And then I'm going to kind of turn the tables on you guys so that you can tell us what you're expecting of us as your instructors. So first, kind of my perspective. Also, if Natalie has anything to add, we can do that. But this is what I really like to kind of impart upon you guys about my expectations about how to have a successful month in my class. So first and foremost, my expectation is, even though maybe you don't particularly like public speaking, or you're like, this isn't part of my degree program, why am I having to take this? Please approach this class with a positive attitude and an open mind. I think at the end of the course, a lot of people say, I didn't really know what to expect out of this course, but it's really kind of opened my horizons to this, or it's really, refined my skills with communication. So be very open, as you should be with any and every course that you're going to experience at Full Sail, to any and all things that you could potentially learn and any experience that you could have. So please have a positive attitude and an open mind. Second is going to be with questions. And I kind of brought this up a couple of minutes ago when I was talking about the weekends. So I don't think there's ever going to be a stupid or dumb question. I know that this is a lot to absorb. I know that there's a lot going on in your lives as well. But I will say this, I think there is an appropriate time for your questions. And that's why I was telling you guys about, if you're one to kind of procrastinate, you might not have my availability or Natalie's availability over the weekend. So you really need to be proactive in looking at the material week to week, looking at the go-to sessions early in the week, and asking those questions Monday through Friday when you do know that we have availability and we can get back to you in a pretty quick manner. Okay, so meaning the appropriate time to ask the question is well before the due date, not after the due date. It's so disheartening sometimes when a student doesn't turn something in and they say, well, I didn't really understand the assignment, but we didn't hear from you. And that's kind of the disadvantage on our part as instructors in an online class. I can't see you. I can't get those nonverbal cues that maybe that didn't click, or maybe you were kind of, not getting that particular concept. So it does kind of lay on you and your shoulders to really be proactive and reach out. To be sure that you're understanding the material, but make sure that you're asking well before the due date. So also, I expect you guys to show up. I really do, because I know how creative and capable you are. So I'm expecting that week after week after week, you really show up, you're bringing your best attitude, you're bringing your best work, and you're showing us exactly how capable you truly are. I have the expectation that you listen to me as your instructor, Natalie as your instructor, and also, your peers as great people to give you guidance. Part of our job as instructors is to give you constructive feedback. And it's not to tell you what you're doing wrong. It's to tell you what you're doing right and how you can also make shifts and changes to get to the next level. That's the whole purpose of constructive feedback. And that's a big part of our job. And you'll get feedback from each and every assignment. So my expectation is that you take that feedback, you implement it, and you try to put it into play for the next assignment. It will always be constructive. It will never be negative. It will never be in a way to make you feel bad about yourself. That's not my point, because when you guys feel that way, I'm not succeeding. So my success is watching you succeed and watching you grow. So my constructive feedback will always be done in a way that's helping you to move to the next level. Lastly, I want you to have a lot of respect for the creative diversity that surrounds you. Right now, you're kind of in a unique position where you are with students from other degree programs. So Full Sail offers 8 different degree programs. So maybe they don't get, gaming from your perspective and the ins and outs of gaming, but they're definitely creative and can be a wonderful resource. So have a good deal of respect for the creative diversity that surrounds you. Okay. All right. So I think Natalie is on board with me with those expectations. So I'm going to kind of toss it back to you guys and invite you to interact a little bit. This is only going to be through the chat box, but we're going to be kind of looking here to see what it is that you guys as students expect from us as your instructors. So I'll kind of pause here. If you wanted to add to that, I welcome you to engage in the chat box and let us know what your expectations are. So James is popping right up in there saying clear, concise instructions for assignments. So hopefully you will have a lot of clarity after this week 1 go-to session, James, especially with the discussion board. Joshua is saying great teachers. I will say I'm a great teacher. I know Natalie is a great teacher. So there you go, Joshua. No, I think you will encounter a lot of wonderful educators at Full Sail. Sometimes we're humble, sometimes we're not. Just kidding around. But Rihanna, okay, I'm expecting things to challenge me a bit outside of my comfort zone. Rihanna, you're going to be challenged. And I think next week is when that's going to happen. Next week, we actually get into some emotional storytelling and recording ourselves, which a lot of people don't like the sound of their own voices, but your voice is a very powerful tool. So we'll start working with vocal delivery next week. So if that sounds like a challenge, game on. We will do that next week together. So any others? So Bailey, you're saying creative assignments. Yes, hopefully, Bailey, you find the assignments are creative, especially moving into the latter half of the month. Renee, you're saying, ooh, that sounds fun. Daquan, great 2 years and able to unleash my creativity. Awesome. Damien, I agree with Rihanna, definitely. I want to be challenged and pushed further. So yes, I think that this class for many of you, there's going to be different levels of challenges. So some challenges might be pushing yourselves out of your comfort zone. Some challenges are going to be trying to get a good grasp and handle on your time management. Some of it might just be communication in general. So I think there's going to be a lot of challenges happening this month, but you can absolutely overcome them and feel very accomplished. James, you're saying, see, the chat box moves very fast. Let me go back. James was saying, it sounds like it's going to be exactly what I need to make our vlogs take off. That's great. Randy, responses to questions and concerns in a reasonable time frame. Randy, yes, I think you will find us to be quite responsive. At most, it's going to be 24 hours in a response over the week, and then 48 hours over the weekend. I would say this: I do get students sometimes that are nocturnal night owls, which I am not, sending messages, at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning and saying, hey, if you're up, if you could just respond to me. I guarantee you, I am not up and I won't be responding at 4 o'clock in the morning, but I am going to be getting back to you as quickly as possible. Same with Natalie. All right, let's see. Luciano, I'm not sure if I pronounced that the right way in those 2 versions. I'm just going to say, where did you go? Good, concise feedback and constructive criticism. I will guarantee that you will get that. Brandon, you're a writer and naturally introverted and withdrawn. So this is going to be your most difficult class. Brandon, I think that you will find, especially in the discussion board this week, that you're not alone in feeling that way. There's a lot of students that struggle with public speaking, with just communication in general. So you are definitely not alone. All right, let's see. And Janae is saying, I agree with everyone, making the instructions and assignments clear and easy. So that's going to definitely happen. Renee said, you want this class to assist me in getting my confidence back, especially so I can start building your YouTube channel. I think that the skill of public speaking, and I do call it a skill because it's something that you're not necessarily born with or without. I think it's something that you have to practice, just like an instrument or a sport. You know, you wouldn't go out on a soccer field and be like, hey, I'm the best at it just because I was born with the skill. No, you have to put in the time and the energy to practice at it. But it is quite a confidence builder once you're able to kind of move past the nervousness and realize you can absolutely stand in front of a group of people and communicate your ideas with ease. So absolutely, we'll work on that. So there's a lot of different comments coming through in here. I see all of them, and hopefully that we will be able to exceed your expectations this month. If there's anything that does come up, I would invite you guys to reach out to us. I mean, communication obviously we're communications girls, so that's what we do. So make sure you're reaching out to us and you're letting us know what's happening. And letting us know what's going on, as opposed to just kind of dropping off the face of the earth, because we can't see you, and we can't really pick up on those nonverbal cues. So I'm going to go ahead and end this session and keep moving forward with a couple more things. And thank you guys for participating so much in the chat box. All right, so professionalism. So you guys all have what is called GPS points and a professionalism grade. So at the very intro, or the very beginning of the items that you need to accomplish this week is going to be your professionalism assignment, okay? And that kind of lays out, you know, Full Sail's policies for academic dishonesty, the way that you're speaking with one another, and really you just need to go in there and make sure that you've checked that you've completed that assignment, okay? I have had, and I will be very honest with you guys, a couple instances of academic dishonesty happen in the last couple of months. So I'm really going to make sure I really want you to make sure that your work is your own creative work. I will be showing you work from some other students, but I expect you to use that as a guide and not start to see that popping up in your own assignment. So that's going to be an important thing to keep in mind here, okay? So make sure with your professionalism that you complete that assignment before the end of the week. All right, copyright. So with Full Sail, it's a little bit different. It's a little bit different of a school, instead of like a state college or university. So it is important to give credit where credit is due and not knowingly try to violate any copyright rules. I will say this, students have a little bit more leniency than instructors do at Full Sail. So I will give you some resources to look at for finding non-copyright material like images and music that you could potentially use. I'll show you some of those resources. But I am not going to be expecting you to give me a full-blown APA-style citation list, okay? But I do expect you guys to give credit where credit is due. Tell me where you got that image. A link to the website is appropriate. And when I show you an example of the TED Talk assignment, I'll show you how a student gave credit there. But I am not expecting APA style. You'll learn that in English composition. So woohoo, we don't have to worry about that because that is not necessarily my thing, but you do need to provide a resource. James is asking, okay, we need to link. I'm not sure if you're talking to me, James, or someone else, but I don't think that's a question for me. So just keep in mind the copyright rules that you need to abide by. All right, so college level writing standards. All right, guys, so here we are in college. So I would love for you guys to be sure that you are completing spell checks, grammar checks, making sure that items are capitalized where they need to be. There's punctuation, not only in your assignments, but in the communication that you provide with your instructors. So my pet peeve, and if Natalie wants to include her pet peeve, but my pet peeve is small, but it drives me insane. So what can you guys guess is my complete and utter pet peeve with college level writing standards? What do you think it is? And you can answer me in the chat box. Text talk like LOL and OMG, citing. Incomplete sentences, nope, you're not there yet. Grammatical errors, nope. I mean, these are all things that bother me, yes, but it's one very little thing. Capitalization, you're on your way. So here's what bugs me, and I don't know why this is such a big deal now, is the lowercase I all by itself. If you guys really could just take the moment and hit the shift key and the I button together, I would really appreciate it because it drives me crazy. And not so much in the chat box. Eric, thank you. I appreciate it. Crystal, you didn't hit shift. If you could please make sure that you're doing that, especially in your written assignments, I would appreciate it. But that's my pet peeve. So I'm glad you guys got a kick out of that one. Natalie, do you have any pet peeves of grammar?
Mine is actually not capitalizing the first letter of sentences.
Okay, so we both have issues with capitalization, apparently. So now that you know us a little bit better, you'll be sure to start capitalizing when it's most appropriate. But guys, definitely, run those spell checks, run those grammar checks. I know a lot of students use Grammarly as well. So I invite you to do that, especially in your writing assignments. Let's see, Allison is saying, my grandmother is a retired English teacher, so all my work goes through her before being sent anywhere. That's hilarious. Bless your grandmother. Renee is saying Grammarly is life. So guys, just make sure, you're present. This is your work, like I said, show up and do your best work. So make sure that written communication is professional when you are communicating with your classmates, instructors, or presenting your information. Okay, guys, so moving on to the lectures. All right, so lectures, this is how we will do the lectures, and it's only once a week. On average, they're about 1.5 hours to 2 hours long. This is the longest one. But for each and every lecture, you need to go back into the FSO platform and mark off that you have completed that particular assignment, okay? You can watch the live session or you can watch the recording. I'm not taking attendance here, but you are responsible for this material. So if you come to me, on Friday and say, hey, can you just explain to me that TED Talk assignment? I'll say, did you watch the go-to session? Because there's like a half an hour explanation on that. So that's really kind of my response is, make sure you watch the go-to session first. And then if you have any specific questions, let me know about it. But the go-to session is where you need to go first to get all of that vital information each week. Submitting assignments. All right, so you're submitting assignments through the FSO platform. That's how we will see that everything has been turned in. So we don't want you submitting it through email unless there's some kind of an issue. Everything needs to be submitted through the FSO platform. All right, so here's what it kind of looks like, and I want to go over this for a second here. So this is the completion box, like a screenshot of the completion box in FSO. And so if you are, say, week number 1, you're submitting your TED Talk assignment, which is the 1.4 professional presentation analysis. If you're using a program like Word or PowerPoint, you're going to save it as a file, and you can drag and drop the file and show a successful submission. But if you're using a program like YouTube or Adobe Spark, something that's a web-based program where they're not providing you a file, they're providing you a link. You can't drag and drop the website and it won't work. So the workaround for that is going to be create a Word or text type document and include your name and the website and upload that document to the platform. And when Natalie and I receive it, what we'll do is we'll click on the link and go and grade your assignment, okay? You're going to remember this around Sunday night because this is probably the #1 asked question in week number 1. I did this on Adobe Spark, but I can't submit it. What should I do? Okay, so let that kind of sink in for a moment. If worst comes to worst, you can go ahead and put that link in the feedback of the assignment if you need to. Here are the file naming conventions. Jennifer, you were right ahead of me. Here's the file naming conventions. Because Jennifer asked for future reference, is there a certain way you would like us to name the document? So here is how most of your instructors are going to expect you to start naming your files. I won't count off if you don't name the file correctly, but you really need to get into the habit of good organization because you're going to be creating a lot of work. So the file naming conventions are your last name, underscore first name underscore assignment name. And then I provided just an example with my own name right there. So if you kind of get into that habit each and every assignment, you will have a good organizational pattern going. I had a question up here. Damien, you had asked me, will you go into more detail on the professionalism assignment? I'm not sure what specifically you're asking me about the professionalism assignment, Damien. And if you want to write that in the feedback, I'll kind of come back to that comment. Okay, guys, so feedback. Feedback is going to be, like I mentioned, an important part of my job and Natalie's job. And you guys are going to be sending in assignments each and every week. And you can expect to receive detailed feedback about the things that you did right and what we really like that you did and about the things that we would have liked to see more. And instead of going on this track, maybe try this track instead. So you will be receiving detailed feedback. Sometimes that's going to be written feedback. Sometimes that's going to be audio feedback. But it is important not only to look at the numerical grade that is assigned to your work, but also to absorb that feedback, please. So take a few minutes to actually read and absorb that. All right, just a couple of items throughout the platform that I want you to be aware of. These are just some screenshots. So in the About section, this is where you'll have a couple of documents that are important here. So in that About section, you will have this all-important FSO support card, which I will show you in a moment. You'll have a little bit of bonus material, and then the course syllabus. The course syllabus is the same for the entire course, and each and every instructor abides by that syllabus, so it does not change per instructor. But here is that FSO support card. FSO support. This is probably going to be one of your go-to resources that you need to get to know. You don't want me, I promise, you do not want me giving you technical advice. I know this is a technical school and I should be at that level, but there's often times where I just don't know how to help you. I don't know necessarily what program you're working with, what software you're working with, what hardware you're working with, but FSO support is fully capable of doing much more than I can. Oftentimes they can kind of log into your own system as well and kind of navigate that. So I would suggest calling FSO support as opposed to emailing them, because it's going to be a quicker answer. So just make sure, like, if you ask me for technical help, if I can help you, I will. If not, I will oftentimes refer you to this wonderful resource that you should really get to know. All right, so also a couple of snapshots here in the platform. So if you look under your avatar, there's a couple of items that are going to be important to you guys. So first it's going to be under the resources tab, and that's where you're going to find your Safari books, which is access to our 2 books for this course, and also lynda.com. So here's our 2 books, which are going to be provided through Safari Books. They're both by Nancy Duarte. The first is called Resonate, and the next is called Slideology. So that is where you will access the textbooks from this course. You also have access to a site called lynda.com. You were able to access this through that link that I just showed you. You can't just go directly to the site and log in, because they will be asking you guys to pay for that, but you already have an account through or with being a Full Sail student. So lynda.com is a wonderful place to get very professionally, high quality done tutorials on different softwares. So if you're not really familiar with PowerPoint or you're not really familiar with Keynote, this is a great way to learn that. And I will say this, guys, we don't teach how to use these software programs, because if we did that, that's all the course would be about, because there's so many options. But this is a great way to go and kind of learn about those. So this class is all about teaching the concepts of creative presentation, not necessarily the technical side. So a lot of that is going to be expected of you to kind of learn how to do that with some tutorials here, and lynda.com is a wonderful resource for that. So I'm going to take a breath and a drink and see if you guys have any questions thus far. I'm about to go into the assignment explanation, so have no fear. We're going to spend a lot of time there. But are there any questions about what I've just covered thus far? Rihanna, is our name, if our name has a hyphen, do we include that in the assignment file title? Yeah, I would say go ahead and include that. You're welcome. Any other questions? Eric, you're saying, can we get our books now or later? You should, Eric, you should have access to the books as of now. They're on Safari Books. Matthew, good question. Do we gain credit from lynda.com? I do know that after you have completed a Lynda tutorial, they will provide you with a certificate. So that might be something to do with, I mean, I know as an instructor, we have professional development hours and those count for us. I'm not sure if that would maybe count towards anything that you're required to do, maybe for professionalism for your, for being a student. I'm not exactly familiar with exactly what those items need to be, but they will provide you a certificate. Damien, yes, the file naming conventions. You want me to show that again? Oh, there it is, right there. That's for you, Damien. Anybody else who wanted to know the file naming conventions? Jordan, are the assignment names always numbers, such as an example, 1.4? They will have a name and a number. So like, for instance, the 1.4 assignment is also called the professional presentation analysis. So if you called it either the title or the number, I will know which one you're talking about. Chris, you're asking, will the assignment name need to be written out or how will you have it? No, when you submit it, I will, when you guys submit your assignments, I do what's called a batch download, and I'm grading. I usually grade all of those assignments at the same time, so I usually know. But I think it's a good habit to get into, to put your name, the instructor's name and the assignment name on each and every one of your submissions. Brooke, you do have access to the Writing Center. The Writing Center can be found by email at writingcenter@fullsail.com. And there will be times where, if maybe in the grading rubric, the mechanics aren't up to par, maybe you could have some assistance with that. I will refer you to the Writing Center, but each and every student has access to the Writing Center. Renee, I don't think that the books can be downloaded. I'm not sure. That would be a question for FSO support. They would be the ones to kind of help you with the options for that. I don't think that they can be downloaded. I know you have access to them as throughout your time as a student. I think some students were talking about maybe printing portions of them. I'm not sure what the download specifications are. So you might want to call FSO support for that. So Tyler, you got the books on Amazon for $35. The hardbound, the actual physical book, Tyler. Yes, okay. So you can actually purchase them if you want to, but you do have them obviously for free as a student through Safari Books. Okay, guys, any other questions? Oh, Norman is saying, okay, Norman, thank you. The books can be downloaded from the Safari Go app for Android or ISO. So that's great to know. Thank you for adding that. See, I'm not Miss Technology. I promise you. That's not an expectation I'm going to put out there. All right, guys. So I'm going to go ahead and move forward. And we're going to kind of go and move you to what you're working towards, okay? So for right now, I don't want to overwhelm anyone. I don't want to freak anyone out, but I'm the type of person that would like to know what I'm working towards, okay? So what I'm going to talk about for the next couple of minutes, this is not your assignment this week. This is your final project that we're going to be building and working towards throughout the remainder of the month. So at this point, this is the reason why I have a man throwing all of his stuff out the window. I want you to throw everything you've ever learned about public speaking and making presentations out the window, because oftentimes it's going to be the opposite of what Nancy Duarte teaches in her textbooks and what we teach here at Full Sail as well. So we're going to actually move towards more of a TED Talk style, speaking style, where your audience is the hero. And if you're not familiar with TED Talks, you will be by the end of the week, because that's your first assignment. But it's more of a style where your audience is the central focus of every aspect of the presentation, not only the content, but the visual aspect and the verbal delivery aspect of the presentation, okay? So as your final project, we're going to start working on those in week number 2 in week 3, and then finally in week 4, you will be presenting those. And that's what I'm grading right now from my prior month in August. I'm grading a bunch of final presentations. And it's great to see, how quickly students really grasp these concepts. So what you're going to be working on is a 3 to 4 minute audio visual pitch presentation to a specific audience, okay? And I'm asking you to pitch yourself to a company or a client that you would like to work with in the future. So there is going to be, Daquan is saying pretty much storytelling, absolutely. And storytelling is a magnificent way to really connect and bond with your audience. We're going to be talking about your why it is that you're passionate about the path that you're on. Why is it that you're passionate about potentially working with this audience? It's also going to talk about how it is that you would be uniquely qualified for this position. It's a very forward-thinking assignment. It asks you to kind of look in the future, because I'm going to ask you to take the perspective of being a recent graduate from your Full Sail degree program. We're going to be doing research into your degree programs. We're going to be doing research into your audience and putting together a very dynamic presentation. Obviously, we're not doing that this week. There's a lot of ground to cover at this point, but that is what you're going to be working towards. And in my follow-up announcement, I will be sharing some of these final presentations with you guys. I think they're just absolutely amazing when it all comes together at the very end. So not to freak anybody out, but that's what you're working towards for the remainder of the class. So in the meantime, obviously, we're not building this presentation this week. Allison, thank you for that. Allison is saying this is going to be one of my favorite final projects ever. I think it really does turn out to be really exciting to get to know some details of where you're headed for your future path. So I'm glad to hear that excitement, Allison. But in the meantime, guys, it's great to start learning some of these presentation softwares. If you're not familiar with them, or if you wanted to learn a different program, keep in mind lynda.com, and you can get tutorials on all of these different software programs. PowerPoint obviously is a very powerful presentation program. Keynote is the Mac version of that. Google Slides is another option. Adobe Spark is wonderful. You'll probably think that I work for Adobe at the end of this month, because I highly recommend this program. It is free. It's very user-friendly as well. And then there's programs like Prezi, Powtoon, not YouTube, but even filming a video if you wanted to do that. So start learning something new. Start working on some tutorials as well and learning these presentation softwares, because we don't teach how to use each and every one of these presentation softwares, okay? But they need to be able to include both visuals and audio. You will be recording your voice for that final presentation. All right, guys, so I'm glad to see this excitement in the chat box. It makes me happy. All right, guys, so let's talk about your week 1 assignments. I know that several of you guys are like, let's get on with it. It's 2 o'clock already. So here's just a snapshot of everything that you have due this week, okay? So you will see here, this is week number 1. These are your 4 assignments that are due this week. Some of them have a weight towards your final grade. Some of them do not have a weight towards your final grade, but they all need to be completed. This column right here is going to be the opening date. So that's when you have access to that assignment. And this column right here is going to be the due date. So for every one of your assignments, with the exception of one, everything is due by September 2nd at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You will see that I have 2 deadlines for the 1.3 assignment, because you have to complete an initial post as well as complete 2 reply posts before the discussion board closes on September 2nd. Okay, so that one actually has 2 due dates. The first due date for that assignment is Wednesday, August 29th, which is tomorrow. And then you have until the rest of the week through Sunday to complete those 2 reply posts as well. All right, so I'm going to go through each and every one of these assignments in detail. So hopefully you guys can have a good understanding. And I will stop after each and every one of them to make sure there's no questions. All right, so the first one, for those 57 of you, this is a large number, 57 students that are in the live session right now, you are completing the week 1 go-to training, okay? And so as you guys can see, right here, I just did a quick snapshot of what this will normally look like in the platform. So after today, it will take a couple of hours for me to render and upload the recording. I put it on my YouTube site and I share that link with you guys. So I will eventually, after, when the afternoon hits, after I picked up my monsters from school, I will come back in and upload the YouTube link, and you will have access to the recording. So whether you're watching the live session or the recording, come back in and make sure you have clicked that you have completed this assignment, okay? So make sure that you have done that. Probably no questions at this point. That's a pretty easy one to do. The 1.2, yes, Joshua, I called them monsters. That's what they are right now. I love them dearly. The 1.2 learning activity and Resonate. So this week, we are just going to be tackling a couple of chapters in the Resonate textbook. And week number 2, we'll start to pull in Slideology, which is all about slide aesthetics and making sure that those look pretty and enjoyable. But right now, we're going to be just concentrating on the Resonate textbook. So please read chapters 1, 2, 3, 4, and chapter 7. And this week you have it very easy to where you just need to mark this as completed. Matthew is saying you're enjoying reading the book. I'm very glad to hear that. I think it's an easy read, not your traditional college textbook. It's an easy read, and I enjoyed reading it too when I first started as well. So just be sure that you go back in here and mark this as completed before the Sunday due date. So any questions thus far? Probably not. Those two are pretty easy, self-explanatory. All right, so I'm going to keep moving on here. Okay, so the discussion board. All right, this is the one with 2 due dates. So the discussion board is your first graded discussion board. Joshua, yes, this is the assignment that I'm talking about that has 2 due dates, and the first post is due by Wednesday the 29th. And so I'll go over the initial post and everything that needs to be included. So this is a lengthy discussion on this. So the 1.3 presentation history discussion is worth 5% of your overall course grade. It's comprised of 2 parts, an initial post and at least 2 reply posts, which are due by Sunday, which was September 2nd. All right, so our first discussion is really going to focus on your own experiences, your thoughts, your fears, your excitement about making presentations and your public speaking experience. Maybe you have a lot of it, maybe you have very little of it, but it's a great way for me to kind of get to see where you are at with your experiences and your feelings about public speaking, and also to start connecting with your classmates as well. As this says, again, the first post is due by Wednesday night, which is the 29th, which is tomorrow. So your initial post will go into this completion box. Most students will just type right in there. I do see some students that will add a Word document because you can attach a file here if you want to. But my suggestion would be just to, just go ahead and copy and paste it in there or type it right in there so it appears right within the discussion board. And then you will go to the discussion to see that the other posts that your classmates are making. All right, so in each and every one of the assignments, there's going to be a series of downloads, and that's where your instructions are going to come into play, and also the grading rubric. Okay, so this is the instruction file for the 1.3 discussion here, okay? So as it's saying, it's likely that you've given a presentation at some point in your life. Crystal is saying that you freeze instantly. Definitely not anything that is abnormal. A lot of people freeze up, have a lot of anxiety, and really just steer away from making speeches or going into public speaking situations. And I think that you'll find a lot of your classmates feel the same way. Perhaps you have quite a bit of experience in making presentations, and that's great. And you can be a great source of support for your classmates as well. For some of you that have zero public speaking experience, you can kind of take this from the perspective of being an audience member, because more than likely you've seen someone deliver a presentation at some point in your life. So wherever you are on that spectrum, that's absolutely fine. I'm just looking for you to kind of share your experiences at this point. All right, so here are the instructions, and I kind of divide these up for you guys. So this is going to have to do with the initial post that is due by the 29th, which is tomorrow. So first and foremost, in your initial post, I want you to, number one, describe your level of comfort delivering presentations. Are you fearful or are you completely comfortable? And explain to us why. Some students kind of do this on a scale of 1 to 10 as well, like 1 being totally comfortable, 10 being absolutely uncomfortable, something like that. If you have fears, what would make you feel more at ease? 2, discuss a public speaking experience that you remember. Was it good or was it bad? What did you learn from this experience? 3rd, discuss a time that you created a visual presentation. Maybe it was PowerPoint, Keynote, Prezi, something like that. What was your biggest challenge and what did you learn from this experience? So make sure you answer those 3 questions, and then also in your initial post, tell us what you would like to learn from the class and what do you think that you need to improve upon in your presentation skills. Okay, so those 5 prompts right there will comprise your initial post. So that's what I'm looking at when grading. Did you answer all of the prompts with some, some specifics and details, not just, 1 sentence per prompt, but give us a little bit of detail here so we can get to know you a little bit better. So that is part 1 of this assignment with the initial post. Part 2 is going to be the 2 reply posts. All right, so you need to visit the discussion board daily and start interacting with your classmates, okay? I'm expecting that you reply to at least 2 different classmates. I highly encourage you to reply to many more than 2 if you can. Joshua is asking, can you delete a post that you submitted? I missed the instructions and left out some answers. Joshua, you can't delete it, but you can go back and edit it. So you are more than welcome to go back and make some edits to that initial post and address all of those. Joshua, you're saying sweet. Jordan, you're saying, where did you find these instructions in FSO? I want to find them again. Let me show you really quick. You should be seeing on my screen the platform. Okay, so all sorts of dinging right now happening. Let me go into just one of my sections for September. And if you go into preview, week 1, presentation history, you will see those instructions, the grading rubric, and what I'm going to cover in the next slide, which is the RISE peer feedback model. So that is where you should be able to find instructions and grading rubrics for each and every one of those in FSO. So hopefully you guys have all seen that. Okay, going back over to the keynote, you will see down here that I would like you guys, you're welcome, Jordan, I would like you guys to use what's called the RISE model for giving constructive, meaningful feedback. And you're probably like, what's the RISE model, ladies? So let me tell you what the RISE model is. It was actually created by another instructor here at Full Sail, but it actually gives you a guide for providing constructive feedback, because oftentimes what I'll see is students reply to another student and say, thanks for sharing. They'll just have something very brief, and you really want to engage in conversation to keep the conversation rolling, because this is the best way to mimic a live classroom environment. So the RISE model is an acronym. It stands for Reflect, Inquire, Suggest, and Elevate. So for me, and more than likely also for Natalie, especially in the first discussion, we're really looking for you guys to include the R and the I portion, at least, of the RISE model. And I'll show you where it will count on the grading rubric on the next screen. But I want you to reflect first, okay? Reflect on the classmates' original posting. Do you agree or do you disagree with what they said? Do you have something in common with what they said? Next is the inquire, okay? Inquire more about the topic for clarification, for more information. Ask some questions to further the conversation. So for me, especially in week number 1, if you have completed the R and the I portions of the RISE model, you have done a very good job with the responses that you're doing. If you want to continue doing that, I highly recommend that you do, to suggest and elevate, suggest constructive, creative ideas for improvement, and then also elevate to raise to a higher level for the future. Okay, so that is the RISE model. Let me show you how this all comes together with the rubric. And this might be a little small, but this is going to be how we grade your assignment. So each and every assignment will have its own grading rubric. There has to be some sort of standard by which we are grading everyone for their assignments, okay? So for the grading rubric, you will see here for the 1.3 discussion, there's 4 different categories that we're looking at: relevance, rationale, the learning community, and that has to do with your 2 reply posts, and your mechanics, okay? And we're grading on a scale here, a sliding scale: exemplary to accomplished to developing, beginning, or perhaps it was completely incomplete. So obviously we're aiming for this exemplary category. So sections 1 and 2, the relevance and the rationale. Did the student post content related to the discussion topic, including all prompts and required questions? So if you only answered 3 of the 5 prompts, I can't give you an exemplary for that one because you didn't complete all of the questions. So you need to be sure you've answered all the questions. Under rationale, student expresses opinions and ideas in a clear and concise manner with obvious connections to the topic, okay? So give me some detail, give me some specifics, tell me the story behind your experiences, and that will go there. With the learning community, this is 30 points of the grade, okay? And that's why we were talking about the RISE model, because you need to reply to at least 2 different classmates, and you need to use that RISE model in order to get those full 30 points. Say you replied to 2 students, but you didn't use the RISE model. You're going to be bumped down to either a 25 or a 20 based on how basic those responses were. If you only replied to 1 student, you'd probably be down here in the beginning portion. If you replied to 0 students, it's going to be a 0. Just with some basic math here, that already bumps you down to a 70 out of 100, and at Full Sail, a 70 is a D, and it's painful to assign that grade, especially when you do a fantastic job on the initial post, but it does take off a lot of points. So make sure that you're engaging and using that RISE model when you go back in and talk with your classmates. And then lastly, mechanics, okay? Student demonstrates exceptional grammar mechanics, no errors in sentence structure, spelling, capitalization, or punctuation, okay? So make sure you're doing all of those college level writing standards for the mechanics here. Okay, so a couple of questions. Crystal is saying, go back and edit. Crystal, was that, do you want me to go back to a certain page, or are you responding to someone else? I'm not positive. Laban, oh wow, so a B is a C. Actually, no. So Full Sail's grading, it took me a while to get used to this. So an A is going to be a 90 and above. A B is an 80 and above. A C is a 73 and above. A D is a 70, a 71, or a 72. Anything below a 70 is an F, okay? So in other places, you might have had that 70 range was a C, and it's not. There's a little small caveat in there where it's a D. So just be aware of that. Ashley, are you going to require us to provide a certain number of words or sentences within the initial post and replies? Had classes where the instructors would require students to type X amount of words or more for each post, or else points would be deducted. Ashley, I will not. Natalie, more than likely, will not as well. We're just looking for you to thoroughly respond to the prompts that are listed there, and then use the RISE model when replying to your classmates. There is no minimum word count or paragraph count that we are looking for, just that you've thoroughly completed the assignment. Okay. Do we have to use the RISE model every single time? In the discussion boards, you'll have a discussion in week 1 and week 2 that are graded. Week 3 is not graded, but I do expect you guys to incorporate that RISE model in the discussions when we have them, yes. Okay, guys, so just to kind of recap here. So for the discussion, the 1.3, here's some tips to remember. Make sure you post your initial post before the deadline, which is August 29th. Answer all of the required prompts or questions that I went over. Make sure you're using the RISE model and you're replying to at least 2 other classmates, and that you do that before the discussion board closes on Sunday night on September 2nd. So I'm going to pause here and see if there's any questions about the discussion. And if you wanted to ask me over the microphones too, I'll be looking for hands. Any questions at all? Okay, let me see. What if it's not posted by the deadline? I'm thinking let me kind of address this. Okay, so in week number 1, if it's not posted by the deadline, I am not going to take a late penalty this week. In the preceding weeks, there will be late penalties, usually 5 or 10 points for the discussion boards. So if you don't have your initial post done by Wednesday, that's okay. I won't take a late penalty this week. Make sure that you do it by Sunday, though, because once the discussion boards close, they are closed and we don't reopen them, okay? So you need to be sure that everything, even if you couldn't get to it by Wednesday night, if you can only get to it by like Friday, make sure you do it anyway. But if you're going past the Sunday deadline, we will not reopen the discussion boards because that affects all of your classmates. And these are meant to be like real-time discussions. So we don't want them going on and on and on. So there is a closing date to them. So hopefully that answered that question. Liban, if we fail an assignment, are there any makeups? Okay. Oftentimes that's to the discretion of the instructor, all right? I can't speak for Natalie. I'll let Natalie speak for that. But for me, especially in week 1, if I look at your assignment and I see that it's probably going to be a failing grade, I will probably offer you an opportunity to redo it. That is, if you've submitted the assignment, if it's not late, that you're attending the go-to sessions, you're doing everything that you can, and you're maybe just not getting the concepts, I will more than likely offer you an opportunity to redo that. Those opportunities become less and less and less as we continue to move through the remainder of the month, because you should be kind of getting the knack for what we're doing as we move through that. You're welcome. Okay, Brandon, need to edit my initial post in the discussion board. Yes, Brandon and everyone else, if you've already gone into the discussion board and you've started it, or you're not happy with it based on the explanation that I just gave, you may go in there and edit the initial post. You can't delete it, but you can go ahead and edit it, and that is fine. Matthew, you need to edit as well. We'll do that later. Yeah, go ahead, guys. If you need to edit, that is absolutely perfectly fine. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and move on to our major assignment this week, and that's going to be the 1.4 Professional Presentation Analysis assignment. We also call this one the TED Talk assignment. So this is 15% of your overall course grade. This is due by Sunday, September 2nd by 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay, so I'm going to spend quite a bit of time on this one, and I'm going to show you 2 student examples so you get a good idea of what this looks like as well. Matthew, you're saying you have your first TED Talk done, going to start. That's awesome. So if you've never heard of a TED Talk, who has ever heard of TED Talks? You can answer in the chat box. Do you guys know what a TED Talk is? I'm getting yeses and nos. Okay, well, you're going to get familiar with them if you don't have experience with them. A lot of people really do enjoy watching TED Talks. It's basically people giving speeches about any and every topic you could potentially imagine. So Yes, Rachel, you can use TEDx as well. So you can use TED Talks and TEDx. So what I want you guys to do for this assignment is really start to sit in the seat of the audience member. So before you can become a great speaker, you really need to sit in the seat of the audience member to learn what resonates with you as a person watching a presentation, okay? So I want you to go to TED.com, it's TED.com, and you can choose any 3 TED Talks, okay? You are not limited to category. I'm a communications girl, so I always go into like the relationship and communication stuff because I find that interesting. But some of you guys are probably like, nope, don't care about that, but I really want to talk about gaming or music or sports or something to do with that. And then you can search for those categories as well. So you need to choose any 3 TED Talks, but it must be 3 different TED Talks that you're going to analyze. And we're really kind of looking at this from the perspective of the audience, all right? So let me go over the instructions of this assignment with you. Okay, so step number 1, there's 3 steps to this assignment, okay? And these are the instructions also found where I just kind of showed you in the platform in that preview area. You'll have access to the instructions and the grading rubric, which I will review with you guys. So step number 1 for this assignment is to watch a minimum of 3 different TED Talks from the TED.com website. And I want you to kind of think about this overall question. What is it that makes a presentation effective, creative, captivating, and or inspiring, okay? Again, you have the option of choosing whatever category, whatever TED Talk you watch. They can be completely in the same category or 3 totally different categories. That's completely up to you. But as you're watching, you're going to start analyzing. And I say analyzing because I want to put an emphasis on the word analysis. Oftentimes, students will provide a summary of the content of the TED Talk. I don't want a summary. I want an analysis. And these prompts right here, these 6 prompts will guide you through the process of moving towards analysis information rather than summary information, okay? So as you're watching these 3 TED Talks, you need to consider all of these prompts and answer them as well. Why was this presentation powerful or moving? 2, why did you like this presentation? Was it the content alone, or was it how the speaker delivered the content? I will say this, sometimes you watch a TED Talk and you just didn't like it. You weren't captivated. Analyze that. Figure out the reasons why you didn't like it as well. Okay, come up with the reasons as why it's something that kind of turned you off, or maybe you were distracted or didn't captivate you. Okay, so it doesn't always have to be one that you like. It can be one that you dislike or just wasn't all that engaging, but really dig deep into the why of that. Why was it not captivating? What made the content appealing or not appealing? What made it relatable? 4, how did the speaker draw you in to care about the subject or the topic? 5, what did you get out of the presentation that you would have not experienced reading an article about the topic? And 6, what kinds of emotions did the presenter elicit? How did they do this? Okay, so you need to go through this process of answering those 6 prompts for each of the 3 TED Talks. Okay, so you're going to have 3 separate analyses for 3 separate TED Talks. Moving on to page number 2 of the instructions. All right, step 2, you're going to create a document for this assignment, and I want you to include supporting visual imagery. A lot of students have questions about this. Really, I want you to include an image that complements or enhances the TED Talk, and I'll show you that in a moment. So you need to include visual imagery. I would prefer that you include an image for each TED Talk at a minimum. These could be a screenshot of the speaker. It could be an image that complements the content of the talk. Whatever it happens to be, you need to have supporting visual imagery. All right, step number 3, and a lot of times students kind of mess this one up. Step number 3 is going to be conclude your assignment with your own list of 10 qualities. This is one list of 10. Qualities, techniques, and or presentation skills that make the presentations that you've watched inspiring, captivating, I just created a word there, creative and effective. And you also need to provide specific examples from the presentations to support your claim and explain why these elements contributed to a powerful presentation, okay? So I want to show you two different examples made with two very different programs, both A+ work, so you get a better visual example. I do see some questions in here, so I'm going to show you guys the examples, and then I will address the questions. Let me see. All right, where is? Okay, so here's my first example made by Sydney and Zach. I see your questions, but I'm going to address those, and just give me a couple minutes so you can kind of see exactly what this looks like. You might have a better understanding once you see it visually. So this is created by Marisol Rodriguez, a student of mine, I think about a year, maybe 15 months ago. Fantastically done work. So this is more of kind of like a Word document. I think maybe she used InDesign. I'm not particularly sure, but she saved it as a PDF. So for the first analysis, okay, she's given me the title, Your Brain on Video Games. She's giving me the speaker's name as well. You need to give me the title and the speaker's name. Very thorough analysis. As you can see, I'm not going to read it to you, but she's clearly addressed all of the prompts listed in the instructions. Over to the right, this is her visual imagery. She's talking about, an analysis on video games. So she's chosen an image with a video game controller. Absolutely enhances that presentation. I like that she's also included a brief quote here, just to kind of have a little extra emphasis on her analysis information. You can also see that she has given a reference to this image because it wasn't her image, okay? So she's giving credit where credit is due. So that's steps 1 and 2 for the first analysis. All right, her second TED Talk is about, can you tell if a kid is lying? Can you really tell if a kid is lying? There's the title, there's the speaker, full analysis, a little girl obviously talking about if a kid is lying. She's included a quote as well, and she's included the resource for that image. Third one, addiction is a disease. We should treat it like one. So great analysis yet again, very powerful image. I love this image that she's paired here with a bottle being chained to someone's wrist. Really coincides very nicely with addiction. So visually appealing. Again, with the quote, and then also provides the documentation at the bottom for that image. So that's steps 1 and 2. She did a phenomenal job with that. Here's step number 3 with the list of 10 qualities. These cover 3 different slides here. So she's gone and she said, okay, captivating visuals, a big idea, involves the audience, storytelling. She's also went as far to provide a small icon that would enhance each and every one of those 10 qualities. But she's also talking about, how the speaker, Kang Lee, uses visuals to educate the audience. She's using specific examples from each of those TED Talks to show how captivating visuals enhances a presentation. So here's her next couple of 4: shocking statistics, empowering the audience, tone of voice, a sense of humor, and then lastly, her relatable comparisons and appealing to emotion. So those are her top 10. There's only one list of 10, and she's providing her detailed information from those 3 TED Talks as well. And at the end, she's also giving me the links to each and every one of the TED Talks as her references. Okay, so this is a very comprehensive assignment that she has provided. Very nicely done, easy to absorb, well organized, and visually appealing. So that is one example that I wanted to show you guys. My next example, Okay, this is the program Adobe Spark. This was created by another student of mine, Lisa Muse. Totally different program, totally different look to it, but they both did a fantastic job. So Adobe Spark is a free program. I highly recommend that you guys use it. I know a lot of you guys are operating on your cell phones, and so Adobe Spark does actually offer an app that you could use in completing these assignments as well. So it might be something you want to look into. So this is the Pages option that she has used. So again, she's got her first TED Talk. It's John Legend's Redemption Song TED Talk. She does a great job with the analysis, provides an image of John Legend. So that works well. The second, You Have Been Unsubscribed. The agony of trying to unsubscribe. She's got the link here to the video, which is great. So that's the second one. And the last one is falling in love is the easy part. So she's got this, this happy couple, right? and kind of enhancing that analysis that she does, okay? Again, with the link, she's provided her resource. So those are 3 analyses, also 3 images, and then her top 10 list is here. So I wanted to give you a good idea of what 2 very different looking TED Talk assignments can look like, but still absolutely do the job above and beyond A+ work. Okay, so I'm getting a couple of questions. Let me go back over here. Zachary, you asked, should we write in that order or just make sure that all include? Okay, Zachary, I'm assuming you're going back to the prompts that I went over in step number 1. You do not have to write them in that order. I think it's helpful to kind of write them in that order just to keep organized, but you do not have to write them in that order as long as you've addressed all of the prompts. That's fine. Sydney, to make sure that I understand step 3 correctly, we write a list of 10 for all of the presentations or write a list of 10 for each. So Sydney, now that you've seen those 2, you can see that there's 1 list of 10 that you only need to do. You don't need to do 3 separate lists of 10. So hopefully that answered your question. Rachel, is Adobe Spark similar to Sway? I'm not very familiar with Sway. I think I've had 1 student turn something in from Sway, so I couldn't necessarily answer that. I highly recommend Adobe Spark, though. Matthew, is a timestamp required for a screenshot? I kind of do it anyways. I don't require a timestamp for a screenshot. No, I do require just the link to where you found that image or that screenshot. Jennifer, is there a set number of pages or words you would like for us? No, again, this doesn't have a set look, a set number of paragraphs, a set number of words. As long as you're answering, some people are they're very concise, but they get their point across very well. And others, they're a little bit more wordy, and that's fine. But I'm not looking for a set number of words for this assignment. It has its own look, its feel, creativity. I highly encourage you guys to incorporate your creativity into each and every one of your assignments, but you must make sure that you're meeting all of the requirements because I do have to grade them on a standard level, and I'll show you the rubric in a moment. Let me see here. Lexus, I noticed that all 3 TED Talks and both presentations are very different topics. Can the 3 topics be related to one another, or should they be very different in tone and subject matter? Lexus, I will also leave that up to you guys. You can pick, and you'll find this. You might go and search for something to do with technology, but you have three very different speakers and speaking styles, and I think that's a great way to look at it. Your choice of speaker and of topic is completely up to you. Bailey and Damien are asking about PowerPoint. Will PowerPoint work as a presentation method? Absolutely. I see a lot of students deliver their work with PowerPoint. So PowerPoint is absolutely an option. So you both had the same question at the same time. Okay, guys, so let me go back to the keynote and go over the grading rubric with you, and then we'll pause one more time to see if there's any confusion or clarification that needs to happen. All right, so this rubric is a little bit more involved. So there's going to be 5 areas that I am grading in. Natalie and I will be grading these assignments based on this rubric. It looks very similar to the one that I just went over for the 1.3, but obviously the dimensions are going to be different because we're looking at different items. Again, this is 15% of your overall grade. So first and foremost, the content. Have you addressed all of the project, or all project requirements are met? Student addresses the content thoroughly. That goes back to those prompts in the beginning. Have you answered all of those prompts thoroughly? Critical thinking, assignment content is precise, in depth, and well explained. This is where I'd like to see some detail coming from you, and using some items that will clearly explain your responses and your reasoning for each and every one of those prompts. Relevance. Assignment content is directly related to course materials and concepts. So this is where we are expecting you to reference some items from the Nancy Duarte books, from Resonate, from Slideology eventually once we get into there. Perhaps it's going to be from something that we mentioned here in the lecture, but you need to be making sure that you're directly relating this material back to the course concepts, the books, the videos, articles, and the material. The mechanics, again, demonstrates exceptional command of grammar and mechanics with no errors. And then the delivery. The delivery is really how you're presenting the information, okay? Do the visuals enhance the main points of the presentation? Is the text readable or clear? So if you guys don't include step number 2, which is the visual imagery, you're not going to get credit for that section, okay? And that's a big deduction. That's 15 points. So make sure that you have included steps 1, 2, and 3 to complete this assignment. You have the 2 examples. I will actually be sending those examples to you in my follow-up message. I'll give those to Natalie as well so she can share them with her sections. Here is my word of warning on that. Please do not use their content. Please do not use their images. Please do not use their material in your own work. Use it as a guide. These students have been gracious enough to share their work with you. So use it as a strong guide in completing the assignment, but please do not use their content. Joshua, is the 10 qualities for the overall TED Talks, or each TED Talk needs its own qualities? Joshua, the 10 qualities is one list of 10. So you would create one list of 10 and use examples coming from all 3 of the TED Talks. So maybe speaker number 1 used effective eye contact, and speaker number 2 used effective range of their vocals, and speaker number 3 used visual examples very well to enhance their point, something along those lines. And you also can go back and look at those examples again and see how they kind of crafted their responses. So I'll pause here and see if there's any more questions to address. You guys are welcome. It is about to storm here, so I hope that we don't lose power. But you might start hearing thunder and lightning. You won't hear the lightning, but we can see the lightning and thundering. So if we lose you, don't worry, we'll figure it out. So any more questions on the 1.4 assignment? Okay, Jordan, for the images, would you like us to supply the link if we cannot find the title? Yes, I would like you to supply the link of where you found that image. Also, guys, I encourage you to use your own. If you're into photography, or if it's just something that you've got a great image of your own that you think would really enhance this TED Talk, incorporate your own work as well. Just give yourself credit, say image created by and your name. And so, if you want to incorporate your own work, absolutely start to do that. Jeffrey, that was your question. Great. Yeah, I absolutely encourage that. Just make sure that you're providing images to complement. Matthew, you're asking, what if the image is from the TED Talk itself? I do allow you guys to include like a screenshot of the speaker or a screenshot of something to do with the TED Talk. Show them in action, if you would. Kind of show them maybe conveying one of the qualities, if you would, like maybe gesturing or something like that. But it can be from the TED Talk. Any other questions, guys? All right, so I'm not seeing any just yet, and of course I'll kind of pause for questions at the end as well and see if anything comes up. If something comes up, just jot it down really quick and we can come back to that. But I want to get through some of the content for week number 1. Crystal, you feel a lot better about this assignment. Great. Sometimes it does take, just an explanation and to see an actual, visual version of it, and it really just starts to kind of click. Brooke, you're asking, do we still cite the image if it's from the TED Talk itself? Yes, I would like you to cite the image from the TED Talk as well. Yes, please. Just get in the habit of doing that. All right, guys, so let's go through a little bit of content here, and then we'll wrap it up for the day. All right, so these are the the books. These are the book covers that we will be using from Nancy Duarte, all right? They're Resonate and Slideology. So Natalie and I come from more traditional college settings where I'm sure you can imagine the textbooks are kind of boring. But these are actually quite engaging. The Resonate textbook has a multimedia version that you might want to check out. But Nancy Duarte is the author of these books, and she really teaches professionals how to give presentations. I also include her highlight reel in my follow-up message that I'll be sending to you. But she does a great job of delivering her information. So Resonate is all about how to tell a story, and storytelling is going to become a huge part of this class, okay? And so how does she do that? She makes the audience the hero and the central focus of the presentation. And that might be very, very different from how maybe other public speaking classes have gone in the past. I know even before I started teaching here, a lot of the concepts were focused on me as the speaker, not the audience. And so that put a lot of pressure on me as the speaker because it was all about everything that I needed to know instead of focusing on how am I going to make a solid connection? How am I going to relate to my audience? How am I going to connect with them? So a lot of that focus needs to start going outward, where you're learning about your audience, you're learning what makes them tick, you're learning what keeps them engaged. I also want you to be sure that you're focusing on story structure, a solid beginning, a middle, and an end. And we'll talk about this in a moment. Again, slideology is all about the aesthetics of the slides, how to make them visually appealing. We'll get into that next week. So be sure you're really getting into the reading here. So as we just talked about, what are the elements that are needed for a story? What is it? And you guys can answer me in the chat box. What is it that is needed for an effective story? What are some of those great elements that make a story just captivating? Okay, Jordan, conflict. Levon, conflict. So there we go. Rihanna, beginning and a middle and an end. A hook, a resolution, a mentor, details. Absolutely, guys. All of these things are absolutely vital. But at their basic core, they are going to be the beginning, the middle, and the end, all right? But all of those items, ultimate characters, the theme, the connection, the conflict, identifiable, characters, a buy-in and some intrigue, those are all going to be necessary. But what I want to kind of go back to is structure, okay? A well-organized message is one that is easily remembered. It's easy to retain. It's easy to connect with. So for me, I have children, and have you guys ever heard a child tell a story, like an 8-year-old tell a story? Have you ever heard that? What they do is this tendency, Rihanna saying, yeah, is they go on and on and on. And Crystal's saying it never makes much sense, but they go, and then, and then, and then, and then, and there's no connection point. And you could just see, like my little one, Jake, like a couple years ago, he was talking about some monster truck movie he went to. And I mean, the story went on for like 5 minutes. And I'm like, Jake, honey, bring it home. Like, you got to bring it home, baby. And it's like, you need to have that beginning. Tell me what's going on in the beginning. And then in the middle and the end, and connect those sections with transitions. Make sure that your audience knows exactly where you are. Bring the story home. An organized message is one that is easy to remember and easy to follow. So try not to have one of those kiddo story moments, and make sure it has structure to your story when you're telling it. I'm starting to lose my voice, guys. I'm sorry. All right. So how many of you guys have ever felt this way as an audience member? Maybe you feel a little trapped at times. Anyone ever? And if you tell me you feel that way right now, I'm going to be very upset. But if any of you feel this way at any point during what maybe a past lecture, maybe it's at work and you're like, oh my gosh, get me out of here. Yes. See, you guys, you don't want to do this to your audience, okay? The last thing that you want to do is make them feel trapped, because remember, they are the hero of the entire presentation. You should be focusing on your audience and engaging them in every aspect of the presentation, from the beginning to the end, both visually and verbally. A lot of you guys can relate. Many of you at work, of course, never in class. But the picture's pretty funny. I love this picture. So let's talk about the audience a little bit here in our last couple of minutes together. So getting to know your audience, which we'll call them the hero, okay? So the relationship between the speaker and the audience is really going to be a mentor-hero relationship, okay? So the presenter, you probably can hear the thunder now. The presenter or the speaker is going to be the mentor, okay? The mentor is the one that shares the knowledge, the experiences, and they really kind of give a roadmap to success, okay? The mentor is the one that kind of plants the seed to the audience, and the audience is the one that helps to make that seed grow, all right? The hero, or the audience, is the one that's going to go out and follow the steps and actually fulfill the mission. They're going to do the work and take the message to the next step, okay? And that could be voting for a candidate. It's voting day here in Central Florida and across the country, I'm sure. Buying a product, joining a team, whatever it happens to be, their job as the hero is to fulfill the mission, to carry out the message, and to do something as a result of hearing that speech. So in this class, Natalie and I are going to be your mentors, providing the tools, the wisdom, and everything that you need for creating an effective presentation. You guys are my heroes. You're our heroes as our audience, and you're going to be doing the work, and you're going to be accomplishing all of the tasks and assignments this month, your final project. You're going to become the mentor, right? The tables are going to turn a little bit, and you're going to become the mentor and guide the audience into doing something as a result of your presentation, okay? Hopefully that's hiring you. If I had the power to hire you, I would here. Ashley's saying, I believe our book told us to see ourselves as Yoda. Yes, absolutely. And Rihanna saying, woo. So I like to think, that's the relationship that we have. You guys are our heroes. We're your mentors, and we're here to kind of guide you down this path. And as you guys start to become the mentor, you need to look at your own audience as the hero, okay? Because they are going to be the ones that fulfill that mission. All right, so how do you relate to your audience? I love this quote up here. Designing a presentation without an audience in mind is like writing a love letter and addressing it to whom it may concern, right? So how many of you guys, in your times of writing love letters, maybe it was middle school and you're passing notes and you're writing this love letter to your interest, you would never write to whom it may concern, right? It had a person's name on it. It was specifically written for that person. Take that concept here and relate to your audience. So I wanted to give you a couple of examples of how I come to relate to you guys as my audience, my heroes, okay? And things that I think about when I'm trying to relate my message and my instruction and my lectures to you guys. So what are some things that I think about? First, I think about your lifestyle, okay? I think about what your lifestyle is like, and more than likely, you're busy, right? You're busy. You're juggling several responsibilities all at once. So I need to understand that the lectures need to be like to the point. They need to be concise, but they need to give you detail and guidance as well. I think about your knowledge, your prior knowledge to the course. What do you know about the topic, and where did you get your information? My assumption is that most students have had some presentation experiences, but are feeling that they could use some more direction, probably right in the middle, right? I think about your motivations. I think about your desires. What is it that you need? What motivates you? More than likely, your motivation is to hit the ground running and to complete your degree program with success. I think about your values. What's important to you guys? Your friends, your family, your career, your dreams obviously are going to be very important to you because you're following your dreams right now. Your influences, more than likely, it's probably going to be someone in the arts that's inspired you. And then lastly, respect. Audiences need respect. And how is respect given and received? Oftentimes, it's through listening and through empathy, okay? So those are some ways that you can start to think about relating to your audience. Those are more in-depth questions rather than just segmenting your audience, but those are important ways as well. So when you're segmenting your audience, you kind of have to think of these surface level items as well. Demographics. Demographics are things like age, gender, political makeup, maybe religious makeup of the audience. Also thinking about maybe the culture of the audience as well. Think about special interests that you might have in common with your audience. It could be pop culture references. It could be music. It could be politics, even though politics sometimes is a dangerous area to go walking through. Think about the time and the location of your audience, okay? And then also try to gauge the attitude of your audience. Let's talk a little bit about the attitude of audiences, because there can be different attitudes that one might have. All right, so the 4 different types of audiences. First is going to be friendly, right? This is the one that we all want. Think of speakers like Dave Ramsey or Tony Robbins. John Gottman is another one that comes to mind. People pay a ton of money to go to their speeches, to go to their workshops, okay? More than likely, those audiences are going to be friendly because they want to be there. They're there to gain something, okay? The friendly audience is there because they want to be there. They're gaining something as a result. But the friendly audience isn't always going to be the audience that you have, sadly. My voice is cutting off. Can you guys hear me okay? It might be this rainstorm. It's clear for you guys? Okay. Okay, good. Thank you, guys. All the yeses. Your audience, your next one might be apathetic, right? They just might not care about your topic, all right? So if you find yourself encountering an apathetic audience, you might want to try and find out the information about why this information would be valuable or important to them, okay? You need to figure out a way to make it valuable to the audience, all right? If they just don't care, you gotta make them care, and you gotta figure out what that is. Sometimes they're uninformed, okay? Maybe they care, but they just don't have any prior knowledge about the topic. In this type of a situation with an uninformed audience, you might need to kind of start more at the basics and move up from there, right? You don't want to talk over your audience. You don't want to talk under them either, but you definitely don't want to lose your audience because you're talking over them. So you might need to go back to basics a little bit here. And our 4th and final type is the lovely hostile audience, okay? Nobody likes a hostile audience, but I'm sure you can imagine. One of my other instructors, Stephanie Jarvis, and I would kind of use the example of like politics, right? and somebody maybe being on the opposite side of the aisle and going to a political rally, and there's a lot of hostility there. But that's something that truly happens, okay? So the best thing to do in that situation is try to come to some type of an agreement on an issue and then pose your potential solutions. So try to get people saying, yes, I understand, we're in agreement about that, and then propose your issues. Hostile is obviously not one that we all want to, like throw ourselves into. But it can happen. Raymond is saying all of high school's mandatory rallies. Ugh. High school, right? So those are your 4 different types of audiences. So our last and final slide here, guys, really is talking about meeting the mentor who you guys are eventually going to be. So I like analogies. I like comparisons. And so what I want to do is kind of give you this kind of visualization in your head, okay? So when you become the presenter, I want you to think of yourselves as a GPS system or a navigation system, right? So you guys tell me, when you're using your GPS, when you're using Google Maps, whatever it happens to be, what is that providing to you? What does that GPS system provide you? Brooke is saying directions, absolutely, but what else is it? What kind of directions is it providing you? A service, information. Jordan saying direction, I'd be lost all the time without them. Accurate directions, okay. Where the Wendy's is, absolutely. We got to find the Chick-fil-A and the Wendy's. But what else is it providing? Is it providing you with a little bit of comfort that you're not lost, right? They're giving you step-by-step directions to get you from your beginning point to your destination. You as a mentor need to do the same thing. You need to give your audience or your heroes step-by-step directions. You also need to make them feel that they aren't just kind of wandering around aimlessly. You need to give them purpose. You need to give them a feeling that they have someone who's got their back. They're not doing this alone. They have guidance and confidence. So those are the types of things. Think about that when you are using your GPS, what are the feelings that start to come along? You don't feel like you're lost, and you never want your audience to feel lost, okay? You want them to arrive successfully at their destination. So I'm sure you guys can hear the thunder and the lightning have approached good old Florida at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Pickup is going to be lovely today. So I want to pause here. Man, I was right at 2 hours. Look at that. Yeah. Any questions before I stop the recording? Yes, Florida is bipolar with its weather. It'll pass in 5 minutes. Rihanna saying the best feeling is when it learns to redirect you when you miss a turn. Absolutely. And that's the best thing I'd love to be a mentor to be. Redirection. Like if you're lost, explaining it in a different way to redirect you. Rihanna, I love that. And I'm probably going to use that as well in future lectures. Redirection. Sometimes the explanation didn't get you to the place the first time, but it can get you there the second or third time. I like it. So guys, I'm going to go ahead and cut off the recording, but I will stay in the room for a couple of minutes to see if there's any questions. Natalie is also here if you wanted to ask her questions as well. So you guys have a wonderful afternoon. We will meet again next Tuesday for our week number 2 lecture. So have a wonderful day.